Hey team, welcome back to part 3 of Wires Up and the Warriorholic, reviewing the NZ Warriors 2023 season to date. Look forward to getting into today, and we're going to touch on the forwards, and then we'll have a bit of a look at how we think the rest of the season is going to play out. So, welcome to my man here, Wires Up again.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me with the Warriorholic. It's good to be back. Part 2, week 2, on the back end of the bye week, so we're refreshed and ready to go, I suppose. Yeah,
mate. Team naming today, so we may have a bit of a look at that at the end as well, starting to amp up again. And I'm getting all fired up, heading up to Napier Friday afternoon. Spend a couple of nights up there, so
cool,
shame
man.
You can't come down for it, bro.
Oh, I would have loved to, man, but yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's get straight into this. We got through the backs last time, so we'll start out with our hookers. Everyone don't take this any kind of particular order. It's just what I've written into the Excel sheet. So we're going to start out with Freddy Lussick, bro. What's your take on how he's gone this season?
Yeah, Freddy Lussick, I think he's done really well. I think every time that he's come in, he's made an impact. My first initial concern with Freddie was after the Tigers preseason, where he kind of got bullied around the middle, and I thought that was like a precursor for how he was going to perform in the competition, but it hasn't been the case. He stood up physically really well in terms of being the first point of contact, and in many cases has been the stronger of between Egan and himself in terms of defensive presence. So I can't fault the guy. He's had a few 80-minute performances where he's had to dig in deep, and he's dug in. I thought he's been serviceable out of the ruck. Sometimes his passing, a lot of our guys we're almost overrunning the hooker at times. So he's getting caught in that tricky position of floating a pass forward, and we've been fortunate we haven't been picked up, but that is an area of concern that if you're not careful, it can be picked up later on. But that's not just him. I think that's Egan as well. But I really give him a solid. I've given him an 8. I thought he's been really solid. He probably doesn't have the greatest out-of-dummy half running like what we see from Egan, but he's asked to do a job that he's been providing the service that the guys need. I can't truly fault him. One thing I would have liked to have seen is last year he had a bit more of a kicking game. He was involved in a few more, kind of what Mahoney does at the Bulldogs. So he's kind of got that in his arsenal, but we haven't seen it yet. So we may see it later on in the piece, but I think I've been really happy with him.
I wonder if that's a bit of a directive from Webby, because you don't see either of them kicking very often. But yeah,
that's true.
I had 8 as well, mate. I feel like he was a bit of an unknown. Sort of came out of the blue when we signed him last year, and my first impression when he came on last year was he put on some really big hits on D, so it was a little bit surprising the way he did get dominated in that Tigers game. But other than that one game up in Mount Smart there, I think it was against the Cowboys when it was massively windy, and I think everyone was struggling with the passing. They had a bit of a nightmare, but ever since then his passing's improved a little bit, and I felt his defensive presence has improved every week. To the point that he actually surprises me that some of the impact he can put on for a guy his size, side to side, he probably weighs the same, if not less than bloody SJ, So I think he's actually he's given me a lot of confidence as a genuine backup there. That we've seen Egan's out this week again. That normally would really concern me, but I'm more than confident he can go 80 if he stays injury free. So I tend to agree that if he could bring in that kicking game, I think that's one thing that our hookers are both missing a bit. So
yeah.
Excited to see how he goes, and particularly with Egan with those head knocks. So
yeah.
Alrighty. On that note, what about Egan, mate? What's your take on him this season? He's played 8 out of the 11 games so far.
Yeah, it feels like he's played less. It's so disjointed.
Yeah.
With the injuries and HIAs that he's had, it's hard to get a good feel for him. And I feel for him probably is that he hasn't been able to really develop his game more in terms of combinations with everyone. We've seen it immediately. You've seen the impact against the Penrith game. We got that break for Curran. We know he's got the ability. It's just, can he stay healthy and string? We're talking on a string maybe 7 or 8 games straight without any injuries. at the moment it's 1.5 games before he gets an HIA or going off. But I still believe the impact is really huge. We do need him. I've given him 8.5 based off of, I suppose, when he has played, he's been really good. I thought the first couple of games before his HIAs, he was really, really on fire, like man of the match performances, that type of thing. Just want to see how he tracks health-wise. And I think actually when Lussick came in, and now even like Lussick starts and Egan comes off the bench, I wonder if that may be the way forward, at least for this year, in terms of managing that HIA thing. Because I just think of it as if he's playing 40 less minutes, it means 40 less minutes of potential HIAs, and especially Lussick's taking that first contact. Right. So that's my only concern. Can we get him back to playing 60 or 70? I think Webby's been really conscious of his situation right now. But I've still given him a high score because I think he's been that vital to the winning performances, and you can't take away some of his earlier performances where I felt he had man of the match performances here.
So just quickly to remind people who might be tuning in for this and haven't seen the first couple of parts we did there, the scoring is like, we're not doing this based on any scientific formula. It's really what we feel the person's delivered based on our expectation for them in a lot of ways. So if you look at a guy like Lussick, obviously we're not comparing apples for apples with him and Egan, but we think, for me, I think I give Lussick an 8 because he's exceeded my potential. Just for those who might be come back and say, how are you giving Lussick an 8 and Egan only an 8.5? It's because we're just comparing them against what we believe they have delivered on potential. So for me, I gave Egan an 8, but I can see why you've given him an 8.5, and that's purely because he hasn't been able to play. And if I'm really honest, you can't think of many players in the NRL who've been head knock prone, who've kind of gotten their way through. You look at guys like Benji, went through a period there. He was massively injury prone, getting shoulders and knees and so forth, and he somehow managed to get through it. SJ even this year, but you find with the head knocks, once they start getting them, they come easier. We've seen that with Ponga, so it concerns me as much as I love him, and I think just on performance wise, particularly that first stint before he got injured, he was showing this potential that all of the people who know rugby league always said he had, and we sort of average Warriors fans were thinking, man, is he the guy to take us to a final? And he clearly showed that he's got that ability on the back of a pack going forward. But for me, it's real shame, but you have to start wondering, why would you keep doing it when we've seen the likes of Spud Carroll and those guys who we saw growing up with dementia in their early 50s. It's just, I don't know, it's a scary one for me. So I hope he gets the right advice and makes the right decision. I'd hate to lose him, but I also hate to see him, struggle in his early later life. So let's see how it plays out. But I think it's an interesting one having Lussick there as a backup. And we've got a couple of good young guys there coming through SG Ball. I always mess up his name. What is it? Fkafka? I'm an SG Ball. I quite like him. He's got some really interesting skills there. I'm not 100% sure if Roach could take the step straight up, but that's probably something interesting we can talk about, the potential for Harris DeVita coming in as a hooker when we have a chat about him later on. So, interesting times. Right, on to the props. Addin Fonua-Blake.
Yeah, I think he's right up there. If you think about our key players, we talked about SJ and his importance. I think Addin's very much up there. I've given him a 9.5 actually. I'll probably say 9.5. I feel like he's on terms with SJ in terms of impact. I think we were all worried pre-season going in that the workload that he was going to do was going to be too much. And that we were a prop short, and sometimes we do feel like we're still a prop short. But his impact has been huge. I think he's his numbers may be a little bit lower than his Manly peak numbers, but the impact is more. The try scoring numbers he's got, he's nearly I think he's top try scorer, something like that crazy. You're probably
he is for the club. I think it's
and he's got a really good feel at the line. He's kind of a player who I think about, man. he knows how to work his body in contact zone. Some guys don't. I mean, we'll talk about Bunty Afoa. He's a guy that doesn't know how to use his body. Addin's got complete control of every part of his body that he knows, okay, I've got two guys up top here. I'm going to wriggle this way, wriggle that. The guys on the bottom, I'm still going to pump the legs through. And then you see when he breaks through the line, his hip control and power through the legs is just, no one can stop him. So I think he's just found a really good level of form with us that I think has been really, I suppose, just really impactful. And we all thought, last year he kind of dipped a little bit. But no, he's grown, and I think in the Webster system, he's found a perfect sweet spot where even his minutes seem really good. He's not overworking. Maybe the Storm game was the only one, and the Roosters game where he just looked a little bit, overworked, overtired. But he looks pretty fresh at the moment. So, yeah, I've given him a 9.5, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him a 9.5 too. I think, just to look a little bit holistically, I feel one of the things that's made me the happiest this year, particularly in the last sort of quarter, is it's our senior players who've really, really stepped up to match Tohu's level, particularly in AFB there and with SJ. So I think one of the key factors is there. He didn't look happy at the club last year, to be honest. I think there was a lot of, bullshit going on internally there. I think the whole Lodge thing. He just looked, I don't know, it looked lonely. If it's a thing you can kind of look at a player, he just didn't seem like he was happy to be out there. And I honestly wonder whether he might want to get out. But I think having Dylan Walker in there, who they're, mates from back in the Manly days, I think from all accounts he's built a pretty good relationship with Mitch Barnett. And I think sort of Jazz has sort of fitted in there with him, that it feels to me like he's really happy, enjoying his football. I think he's fitter this season. That was one of my crimes last year. He just looked a little bit overweight there, and it's probably, again, the lifestyle, living out of hotels and so forth. But I just feel like he's running harder. He feels like he's getting more post-contact meters. I haven't actually checked it, but I kind of sat there last year, being before I started really looking into these sort of details, and I felt like he waddled into contact and then accelerated. And I always kind of wonder, man, if he ran in with the same speed as Bunty, what would he do to people? But I think he's kind of found that way that he just sort of gets up there and accelerates into contact like RTS does. And that's where he gets his post-contact meters. And potentially my only criticism at times is he takes a long time to play the ball from the time he gets the first point of contact, which does allow the opposition D to set. But if he can get that offload working like he started to do in the last couple of games, I think that's when you put the indecision on, and then the referee might not call holding and so forth. So that would be my only thing, is to try and get that player the ball up a little bit, or maybe use the offload a bit to sort of create that indecision and not let them set their D on us. But yeah, one of my top players of the year. Couldn't ask for more from him.
Yeah, I think just on that offloading
next up
point,
we've got Mitch Barnett. Oh, sorry.
Just on that offloading point, it's been interesting, like his touches last year, his offloads always seem to turn into errors, or his passes were, it's like he's almost tidied up that part of his game. I don't think I've seen a dropped offload from him. I don't feel he's forced an offload. I think every offload he's done has been genuinely safe in a way. So that hasn't impacted the game. Unforced errors hasn't impacted his game. And another one actually is his tackle efficiency. You got to really acknowledge his high tackle efficiency. You think for a big guy like him, he's going to be slacking. Nah, this guy he digs in when on defense just as much. His tackle efficiency is 94% or whatever. And for the volume he's doing,
95.2, bro.
95, is it? Okay.
318 tackles. Yeah, 318 tackles, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, and with high efficiency like that in the middle, that just tells you again this guy is top notch, And I think there's that chat between Payne Haas, and Payne's probably on another level right now, but AFB's right underneath there in terms of total impact. You know what I mean? So yeah,
it would have been an interesting battle to see those two go head to head. Actually,
and he said that on Sens. He missed a chance to have a go against Payne, and maybe we'll see that later on in the year. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, different style, but I think, they both have the same amount of impact. He's played every game this season. If you took him out of our pack, I think it's just a completely different equation. So thank not the golf gods. We're on the rugby league. Thank the rugby league gods, and he's got
knock on that wood, man.
Knock on that wood. Mitch Barnett, bro. He only played 3 games, and from all accounts he'll be back not this round but the next round, round 14. What can you recall about him having it's a good 8 rounds or so since he actually played?
Oh, well, I think bitch. Cut that one out, bitch. Mitch Barnett. Bitch Barnett.
Until he sees you, bro.
Oh, hey, man. Hopefully he's still got that neck issue. I want to stay away from him.
Bro, not you.
I'll go straight for the neck this time. Oh, Mitch Barnett. No, Mitch Barnett, guys. Please forgive me on that. Mitch, if you're out there, if you're watching this, please, brother. I didn't mean that one. That was a Freudian slip or whatever. So, no, I think with Mitch, the impact was straight away. We saw it, I think, in the Knights game, the Roosters, and even the Cowboys game where he went to the edge and was just as dynamic out there on the edge. I think we're really missing him. We've missed him. His impact, I think we felt that even with his defensive presence was huge. I felt like he was a big defensive presence in the middle of the field. Like, he showed him, in alpha, they usually present themselves in a strong position. I felt like every time I saw Mitch in the defensive line, he was like that, coming in really strong and showing that we're not stepping down. I think he showed that in the games that he played. That neck issue, that crusher was really unfortunate. It was actually, and I look back on the footage, it was like a flying crusher. It was like a Macho Man Randy Savage off the top rope, and he fell on his neck. So I felt like really sad for him, man. But I think we were all worried, would it be medical retirement? And it's been great that the results have said it isn't. And we've seen footage of him practicing with the boys. And I think Webby has said he's coming back next week. All fingers crossed, knock on wood again. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I've given him an 8. I feel for all these guys that played at the start of the season because I just level them off. Yeah. But at the time, it was probably a 9.5. Yeah. But because of times past and you haven't been available, it's dropped down to an 8. Yeah,
bro. So I actually went back and watched the Knights game on the weekend purely because, like last week, we were talking about Williami.
Yes.
And shit, bro, he was good. He is sneaky quick. He's very, very solid on D and just really good ability to put his players outside him away. So he really stood out for me in that game when I went back and watched it. But so did Barnett. Like you said, he's got a presence. He's got a speed about him. Everything he does is hard.
Yes.
Physically hard. And, I look at a couple of interviews I've heard with Jazz where he talks about it's great to have that other enforcer. He said last season he felt like he had to be the only guy to go and take it to other clubs, and just to have that man standing beside you, it must give him confidence. And it seems strange to say when you've got a guy like AFB next to you who's a monster, but he's not really that kind of aggressive, I'm going to smash you kind of personality. So I think he brought that. And another thing a lot of people were sort of concerned about when he first got announced as coming was his, had an ability to get suspended and give away silly penalties, but we didn't see that at all in those 3 games he played for us. I think he really curbed that aggression to the point I think our other 2 back rowers that we'll talk about in a moment, and Ford and Niukore, both got a penalty and a sin bin in them. So I'm really excited to see him come back. I think he takes our middle to a different level. So based on the fact I went back and saw that, if I just judged him on his first couple of games, I would have definitely given him a 9, but because he's had that bit of a gap, I'm going to drop him down to an 8 as well. Next up, we've got Bunty Afoa, who's played 11 games so far.
Bunty Afoa, I think that's a kind of a talking point every week, depending on how he's going. Bunty is kind of, I think he's had a little pickup the last few weeks. I mean, his numbers have come up. Seems like a guy that the more time the more time he does, the more volume he gets done. But then you question, if I'm on the field for 80 minutes, maybe I can get 100 meters. You don't. But you kind of think, what is the actual impact of it? That's a hard one to answer, and I think in most times we're putting him down for not being impactful enough. I think that's fair. I think the criticism of that is fair. because we have been lacking it. Now, my only problem with him is that when he gets into contact, it's like almost like he's hitting a brick wall. Now, he's supposed to be the brick wall, but he's jumping into brick. Like I talked about Addin finds ways to create space for him to run into. Bunty almost goes into contact and he gets stopped immediately. The leg drive doesn't power through. Right. There's none of that. He is a low error type guy, so you're not going to get much errors from him. He's pretty disciplined in defense, but at the same time, we and you have talked about that he's been out on his feet, and it's only been playing for 20 minutes. So we've always questioned his motor. I compare him to someone like Jazz, who has a way bigger motor than him. And even though he may be smaller than Bunty, you're getting more bang for your buck. And we saw that, I think, even when Jazz went to prop in one of those games. It was more impactful than what Bunty was doing. So that's kind of questioning. I've given him a 7. Even though his numbers have picked up lately, we're trying to find how he actually impacts the game. And I can't see enough of it, even moving forward, of what that impact is.
Well, I had to go and do a bit of kind of digging around to compare and trying to compare him against, a like-for-like minutes prop. And I was looking through the overall stats there, and one thing that stood out is he makes a lot of tackles compared to guys who are playing the same minutes. So he's at 96.2% tackle efficiency, and he's made 250 tackles, but probably paid a quarter of the minutes of Adam. So I think you may find that he is charged with a bit more of a defensive role, which is one of the things I'm trying to find the things I'm not seeing, like I said, because my biggest frustration is not a guy who hits the line harder in the NRL, but then just stops. It's all, I just can't understand the physics of how someone that big, because I've stood next to him, got a photo with him once, and he's a huge boy.
Yeah.
How he's just stopped, and maybe it's a little bit upright, and maybe, you look at guys like Ardie Savea, who's not a huge guy, but his just ability to use his strength. So, it's a random digression here. I've been seeing this thing come up on TikTok recently, which is this, I think he's Russian or Ukrainian powerlifter, who he looks like he might be about 85 kg, and he walks around these gyms dressed as a cleaner and walks up to these 250 kilo bodybuilders struggling to deadlift these weights, and he'll just walk up and pick it up and walk around with it. So there are people who are sneaky strong for their size, and I think Isaiah Papali'i is another example, right? So Bunty's got mass, but maybe he just doesn't have that same power. I don't know.
Maybe he's a bodybuilder instead of a powerlifter.
I think the only thing I can, but you could be right.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to give him a bit more credit for his defense, but 10 tackle breaks, man, 5 average hit-ups a game, and he's played some big minutes here in the back half. Post-contact meters total in 11 games is 230 meters. So that's like 20-odd post-contact meters per game. Yeah. But again, I'm hesitant to be overly critical because I believe there'll be things that he's doing that I still don't see. So I'd always love to pick Webby's brain on that offline and see if he'd tell me what it is that we're missing. And so I gave him a 7.5 that I've always expected more of him. He's the most experienced, in the Warriors jersey now of all of our players.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's lifted it a bit over the past couple of weeks. So, I went from being a little bit down on him to me realizing maybe I'm not seeing stuff. So now I'm not negative. I'm neutral. I still like to see a bit more.
No, I agree.
All right, next up, Tom Ali.
Tom Ali, I've really liked him coming into the first grade squad. I think his initial coming onto the scene was really good. I think he's got quite a lot of ability, this boy, and he's got a big future ahead of him. He's got a bit of ball playing in him. We saw that in the preseason with the Tigers when he was pretty much given that role with Bunty to be ball playing. And I think that's one thing actually while I'm talking about ball playing. A lot of our forwards can ball play, and I think there was a big emphasis on Webster in the preseason. And you talked about it, like doing game skills for preseason instead of just running up hills. And so I think everyone's actually gotten a bit out of that. And it doesn't mean that they're ball playing at this level when Tohu's the main guy but they have the ability. Even there was parts where I saw him play on the edge with SJ in the Sharks game. He has that ability to do a bit of versatility if you ever need it. I feel he's kind of hit a rookie slump. I think most rookies do have it, where they kind of hit a little bit of a brick wall and you got to fight through it. He may have hit that a little bit with his impact. A few errors coming into his game. Not the same impact. He missed that. We talked about him not missing tackles. He missed that tackle in the Bulldogs game around the post there. So just sort of a little bit of a slump, but that happens to all of them. I do feel that's for all rookies that come in. So he just needs a bit more time. Similar, we might get to Domitric as well, but he'll probably have a similar trajectory where he'll have a big impact, and then they'll just hit plateau a little bit, and then that's when they got to kind of dig through and come and find the form again. But I've loved it. I've loved him. What have I given him? I gave him a 7.5. Yeah.
Bro, people think we're going to organise these. Like telling everyone, man, we didn't sit down and compare scores.
No, we haven't been colluding with this one.
Honestly, it's quite random. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm kind of glad that you noticed it as well. It wasn't just me that. I think he was maybe 7 rounds in before he missed his first tackle.
Yes.
So he was at 100% tackle efficiency for a long part of that season. He's now at 95, so he's obviously missed a couple there. He's got 260 around 260 post-contact meters in less minutes than Bunty, so he's got more post-contact meters there. He's averaging around 7 hit-ups. Averages about 78 meters a game. So I think when we saw him come on towards the end of last season, we're like, oh, he's a bit of a wrecking ball. He doesn't look that tall, but actually I was just looking at he's 1.83 m, 110 kg, so he's not a small man.
That's pretty big, yeah.
But he reminds me kind of one of those Penrith type, props when they had, what's his name there? Trying to think of, when they won the first comp, they had, I can't picture his name there, Spencer Leniu, is it? Like in that,
Leniu, yes.
Coming off the bench. Yeah. So he wasn't like a genuine starter, but he's a genuine impact player off the bench. And I feel that's what he could kind of develop into. So all of his numbers are pretty good. And he's just a guy who comes in and does the simple things. But I think you'll probably find first year in, and a guy at his age, he's 24, the lactic acid will be starting to build up in those legs and the fatigue. So hopefully this break has given him a chance to kind of refresh. And it reminds me a little bit of Katoa when he first came into first grade. Like his first year, he was smashing it. And then towards the back half of it, he quieted off a bit. You often find in the second year it's a little bit harder too because people have figured them out. So hopefully this break does him the world of good. And we've got another bye in a couple of weeks. So hopefully that fatigue won't build up too quick. And I gave him a 7.5. At some point we'll pick a different number here.
Yes.
Right, into the edge back rows. Marata Niukore.
Marata's an interesting one. I kind of, my expectations of him, without truly following him at Parramatta, but I thought it was going to be more of like a Niukore and SJ type attacking for back row. I've looked at his numbers, and his numbers are actually, he's doing similar numbers to what he was doing at Parramatta. So I don't think he's a big time attacking threat back row, but that's what I preconditioned myself to think. Oh, this guy's going to put on 10 tries this season, that type of thing. And he's not actually that. He's actually more of a battering ram type. But also your defensive rock type. And he's another one that bangs hard. So when you talk about Barnett and Niukore, those two bang hard. Like they hit hard, and if they're running or if they're tackling, they're hitting people. So I think that has an effect like throughout the game, whereas they may not be scoring the tries, but they're softening that defensive line up for the likes of Egan or whoever's coming on. And so my expectation, since I've seen those stats, maybe I've been softened it a little bit, but he's had a few. My problem with them is, like we've talked about, the Olakoatu type back rower, right? The big back rower, and that's something we may target in the future. I find with back rowers like Olakoatu, they get early ball a lot. and so they can work their one-on-one. I haven't seen that with Niukore. Everything they give Niukore is underneath, going back against the grain, or if it's at the line. And so I find that even if you look at Jackson Ford, and we'll get to him as well, when he's had early ball, he's actually done quite a bit with it. I think you think of that Knights game initially when he got early ball, he put that fin on the outside and he went around, and I haven't seen that with Niukore. I haven't seen if he's got the ability to work one-on-one and then give an offload. Like, I haven't seen him give an offload post-contact this year. And that kind of scares me a little bit, because it's like, well, back rows are supposed to break through the line and then find their centres or their link players. So it is a little bit concerning, but in the same sense, I think he's a rock. I think Webster likes these types of back rowers where they're defensive rocks first and then, whatever running they give you, but you're finding at times we're lacking points and you need to find points somehow, and you want to get your back rowers to kind of create something. I just don't think that they're putting him in those situations where if he can work on one. I don't know if he can work on one. You might know, but yeah, I've given him a 7.5, and I think he can probably do more, but we haven't seen it yet. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, bro, I'm finally got a bit of... I had 7, bro, and that's purely on expectation. But then again, if we're realistic, he wasn't always a genuine first-choice player, particularly starter at Parramatta. He played a bit off the bench, he played in the centres and so forth. I remember back when we first signed him and the rumoured amount he was signed for, I was like, man, that's a bit too much. I think it was about 800,000 or something the rumour was, and I thought, man... Wow. This guy's telling us he wants to come home, but he's asking for 800k to do it. It seemed like a lot to pay for a back row, and I don't think we'd necessarily pay that now. But at the time, I think they were just trying to get some experience in there. And as you were talking about it, I was trying to process it and thinking, our backs do a lot of the early hit-ups. So him and Ford are not being asked to do that many hit-ups within our own half. And then once we get into the second half, I think they generally use them for that, change of direction play close to the line, running off an SJ pass or something, whereas he doesn't really get that ball, around the halfway line when the opposition's already on the back foot. Yes. So maybe put a bit of a step on and so forth. And again, he's another player like Tamari Martin that I felt a little bit underwhelmed by them initially, because I just expected more because of the reputation and so forth. But when you really start to watch him, he does do a lot of defence. I mean, he's 93.2 on an edge there, where edge back rows tend to have a little bit of a lower tackle efficiency than the props, because there's a bit more space to cover and they're dealing with smaller men. And his tackle efficiency is one of the highest out of all of our back rowers there, apart from Sifakula, who hasn't played a lot. So I feel like maybe that's the way Webby's looking. It's both high-working defensive players who hold up an edge. They can make a hit up when they need to, but they're just more using them to close those edges down rather than being ball players. And I wonder if, I don't know enough about it, but I feel like it would be good to have one of each.
Yeah.
Have that kicker or that, those kind of big rangy players that are going to break a line and get a pass away, because our centres aren't really that at the moment. So we don't have that punch on the edge, so we're having to rely on finesse and passing. And we talked about Pompey being able to stand and attack on offload, but he's not breaking through that first line that then gives you, that pass inside or outside to get the second phase of the break. So again, I'm not going to claim I know enough about it to be saying I'm seeing everything's contributing. There's probably more, but a little bit underwhelmed, so I gave him a 7. Yeah,
no, that's cool. Yeah, I actually would agree with you too. I think he actually runs a 60 minutes. He doesn't actually play the 80 sometimes. But then at the same time, you're thinking, the 60 minutes he does do, he's tackling hard. There hasn't been many leaks down that channel with him and SJ. I mean, I'm trying to think when the last one was. Maybe that's where Webster's saying, hey, right, we need defence first. But then that limits, it goes
and
back
also
to
he's only he missed a couple of games as well, right? So
with the hip drop. Yeah. That was the softest hip drop, and now we're seeing all these different hip drops pop up, and we're like, and they're only getting fines now. It's like, what the heck? They just change their rules every blooming week, man.
Yeah, bro. Suit them, but not us. All right, Josh Curran.
Yeah, Curran's man, he's doing really well. I thought, maybe with Niukore and Ford coming in, some players that have had that starting position for so long and then they get dropped, you think, confidence and effort's going to drop. I think he's been really solid. I've loved the touches he's had with SJ, the connection. I mean, we saw that with the Bulldogs try. That connection he has with SJ is really strong. Like they kind of follow each other around the park. If you think about it, they have a way of finding each other. So that kind of really adds to his game and how we can use him. I think he's more of a at the line. He's a little bit better than Niukore and possibly even Ford at finding little gaps. You find him on the end of line breaks a little bit more than those two. His defensive numbers are quite high, but then there's passages where you see he kind of nods off a little. Well, he's a little bit lazy in the defensive thing, and that's where you see Niukore and Ford, that they're a step above him. But overall, I think with all the changes he's had to come in and do admirable jobs, I've given him an 8. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I gave him an 8, by the way.
Yeah.
See, I heard a whisper last year that he was really unhappy and wanted out of the club. Yes. Then we had that off-season incident, and he got dropped down to cup there a little bit and sounded like he was kicking stones, and the rumours started again that he might want out. And I think because he had kind of a pretty quick rise, he played in that Indigenous game and so forth, and played a lot of minutes last year. Maybe he just, he was expecting to get a little bit more of a start. But in his first couple of games, I did notice, like we talked about it offline a couple of times, about him getting caught flat-footed on our line. And I think it's not necessarily lazy. I think it's just he does a lot and uses a lot of energy. So one of the things, the words that popped into my mind when you compare him to Niukore or Ford is he's fast. He moves quickly across the ground. He plays with a lot more energy, more like Dylan Walker or Jazz Tavaga. So he's using a lot more energy. So he finds himself just like struggling just a little bit on that line every now and then. And I think, unfortunately, he's been the one, maybe 3 occasions where he's just been caught flat-footed and created that overlap out wide. That said, I think in the past couple of weeks when he started starting and he got more time and we were missing a couple of guys, he stepped up. I think he's just played with an energy that we haven't really seen from any of the other forwards. I think he's showed that speed that he's got just puts the opposition in a little bit more uncertainty compared to Niukore or Ford. So he's definitely kind of grown back into my good books more than he was when he was sort of in and out there. And interesting, like I look at him and he doesn't look that big, but I was just looking, he's basically 1 centimetre shorter and 2 kilos lighter than Niukore. But Niukore looks like a much bigger guy.
Yeah.
So he's not small. So yeah, I like that he's come back, and really, rather than just sit there and kick stones and try and get out, if that was the case, again, it's just hearsay. I don't know anything for a fact. He came back and proved himself, and he proved his worth. And I like the fact that he is on the bench now, because we don't have Walker this week on the bench, so we need that guy to come on with those fast feet and the energy. So I'm really looking forward to having a really big impact off the bench when he comes on this week. Jackson Ford.
Yeah, this is probably the underrated buy of the year. We had no idea who he was. I had no clue who this guy was. I'd never seen him play. I just saw the name and thought, okay, yeah, this is going to be a depth guy or whatever it is. And then, like Webby, he kind of surprised us with that start, that first starting lineup, and then we saw what Webby saw. That Knights game was, I think, a big game for him to put his skills on display. He did it in and away, big fend down the sideline there, and he's found himself on the end of some tries when he's been playing well. Found him a bit leggy, a bit tired in these last few games, and that's been he's one to sit on the tackle a little bit too long. I wonder what his 6-again penalties have been for him in infringements. It's pretty high. He's one of those guys that can lay in the tackle a little bit, can get a bit tired. but maybe just needs a refresh. I think is he an 80-minute full-time back rower? Probably not all the time, but most of the time he is. Then again, the volume that he does in terms of his tackling is huge. Again, not massive leaks down those channels either, similar to Niukore. So you can't fault him for his efforts, but then it's just sort of compounding the problem when we're tackling so much, and then he goes and gives a 6 again away. And because we are actually the highest tackling team in the NRL, we're doing 350 tackles. That's probably 5 or 10 more than the next one below us. So if we're going to be tackling that much, we've got to try and limit the amount of 6 agains. Not saying he's the main culprit, but
I don't know, but I think he is.
You think he is actually. No. Sorry, but no, yeah. So then again, I'm just saying, well, what is it? Is it tiredness? Is it an injury? What is it that's and maybe you got an answer for that.
I think it's a combination of a few things. It's interesting though, just sitting there looking at some of his stats when you're talking there. He's a metre 87, so he's the tallest out of the three, but he's only 95 kg according to this. I find that hard to believe because he's a
probably
big boy in person.
Yeah, he's probably bigger than that.
So I would have thought he'd easily be the same size as Niukore, because he seems thick. But my first impression is he's sort of sneaky quick.
Yep.
Once he got those breaks away, he's always good at finding the guy with a pass when he does get through there. And I had a bit of a man crush on him, to be honest, at the first sort of 2 or 3 rounds. It's just like, where has this guy come from? Because I'd looked at a couple of his supposed highlight reels from his days at St. George, trying to figure out who he was. And I'm wondering whether he looks like when you looked at him in those videos, he looked more about Ciro's size, whereas now he looks a lot thicker. So maybe he has put on a bit of bulk there. But Webby talks about him being the fittest guy in the club.
Oh, okay.
And that he's a guy that he sees in him starting to show his true value later in the game when other people start to tire. And I think that's probably was the case, but again, when you start to get that fatigue of those games back to back to back in a short period of time, even the fittest people's body will start to fatigue. So I felt like he just dropped down a fraction. And then he really started to annoy me with those silly penalties and silly 6 agains that both him and Niukore are probably the 2 worst, but him more so. Giving those piggyback penalties out of he gives them away in the wrong position. Right? We've got them tied down and he'll give away a penalty on the 4th tackle when we've got them, maybe 30 or 40 metres out of their own line. Next minute, we're on our own try line. So that's something I really hope he can clear up. But I think it's probably an indication that there's some part of Webby's game plan that he wants those big, hard-hitting workhorses on the edges because he came straight back in there, and he is very similar to Niukore. So I'd love to, like I said, have an offline chat with Webby and understand the science behind it, because I'm sure there's some stuff that he's looking for them to do that's not necessarily the same as the likes of a Manly or a Souths, previously of Penrith with those big rangy back rowers who were causing trouble on the edge. Interesting though, if you look at Kikau as an example, he was actually sneaky good on defence as well, so he wasn't just an attacking weapon. Man, I wonder what he's doing. Come over, bro. So 8 for me, and I really like him. I think he's got a lot of potential, but if he hadn't been giving away those penalties in 6 again, he probably would have got a 9 from me. But he's lucky he didn't end up with a 7.5. Hey,
I hope we're not impacting future contracts here with our ratings. They got Webby and Cappy on here watching. Okay, he said 7.5. Okay, take 100K off his next contract.
Bro, at a minimum, he'll be doing a few extra wind sprints and after training, bro. Next up, we've got the man Tohu.
Yeah, mate. I think he kind of was a victim of COVID last year, and injuries too. He had a big injury last year. I think he's one of those guys that's done well coming home, settled himself in a similar way to SJ, And then under this system, where you got this ball playing lock, creative lock. Now I've talked about him and Yo, and I saw him and Yo together. Yo's more the like robotic, can go for days, the Ivan Drago type. Whereas Tohu's got more ball playing in him. But it was good to see those two against each other, because you're comparing the Penrith model. Tohu probably doesn't have the motor that Yo has at this stage of his career, but it was good to see that what I saw about Tohu and his ability to create was very much, he's up there with some of the best in that position. My only concern for him has been his volume, the work that he's doing, and we've seen 2 injuries, a repeat injury of the same, I think it's the same knee. That was my only concern, is that the volume that he's been asked to do, and now that we've seen Walker come back, and unfortunately Walker's not going to be playing in this next one, but you don't want to see this guy doing too much ball playing all the time for 80 minutes. It's diminishing over after a little while. If you looked at the Penrith game, he played in that role for 80 minutes. It wasn't that it was horrible, it's just that it's harder to get at the line and create, and then because he's been doing so much tackling. So it was nice to see Walker take a bit of that load off of him, and I think that's why Walker's so important. But mate, he's our captain. I think, and I've talked about this last week, I think he's the right captain for this team. He's a lead by example captain. He's not your pricey up in the ear of the referee all the time. But I think it works well for this team, and I think there's enough senior leadership around him that supports him, and so he doesn't have to always relay the messaging with a commanding voice or anything. He can be his just his normal self, and he knows that message is being relayed to all the other guys right down the chain. So I've given him a 9.5, almost close to 10. I just think we're asking a little bit too much of him at times, but that's my personal. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I gave him a 10, bro, because I think those things are things he can't control, right? Webby's making the decisions for him, and I don't think there's anything physically more we could have actually expected of him. Well, it's interesting, he's the biggest of our forwards, He's 1.95 and 112 kgs, right? So he's a very big boy. Captaincy-wise, I thought he struggled a bit last year because of, what seemed like a dysfunctional environment going on there, and it just seemed like there was no one calming voice. And I've spoken to guys who played with Richie McCaw, right? And they said he would walk into a leadership meeting, he would tell them what's happening and walk out, and no one questioned him. They just, he had everything in his control, right? Whereas I feel like Tohu's that guy, he's really in his element now because he's got AFB stepping up and taking the forward pack on his back from a meters perspective. SJ's just really in a positive zone, so he's just constantly barking and he's talking. You'll see guys like Niukore who'll step up there and having their 2 cents worth. Dylan Walker as well, like he's taken over the captaincy at times. And you've got Egan, so I think he fits that kind of environment where he doesn't want to dominate and the communication. And this year he's got those voices around him contributing at a level that they should be, whereas last year they kind of let him down a bit, and I felt sorry for him last season because he was just having to carry so much. Likewise, my concern is are we shortening his career by the amount of work we're getting him to do? And I kind of liken him to Payne Haas in their workload. And we saw from Payne Haas last year, he was in a similar situation where he was carrying the Broncos, but he carried them all the way through to Origin. And then once they got through Origin, he started to fatigue, and then the team fatigued on the back of that. And I feel like he's doing so much work because of it, his sense of, I don't know, it's just his personality, right? And he's doing even more than maybe he's been asked, and will that impact him in the back half of the season? How old is he now? Is he 31, right? So you've got to imagine those legs are getting a little bit tired. That would be my only concern, not even a criticism. Bayley Sironen, what you take there, bro?
Yeah, Sironen, again, these guys have a profile of what they're supposed to do when they come in. Sironen's that kind of Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades, master of none kind of role. I think he does a decent job. it's. I think he's playing within his skill set most of the time. He's coming on as hooker. I think maybe he's had to go at 5'8" when we've needed depth. Sometimes his impact translates, sometimes it doesn't. I think he may be a victim of when he comes on. No, he doesn't. In fact, he probably doesn't even come on every time that he's supposed to come on. Like he comes on, when someone's injured and it wasn't expected. So he's playing in different times of the game, and so it's hard to see where he impacts. But I've given him a 7. I can't. That type of a role is hard to quantify. But I do think it's an area we need to upgrade at some stage, and maybe that's what CHT might be. But what's your gauge on it, man? It's hard for me to really gauge and give him a good mark.
Yeah, I remember that discussion we had on that Insta Live, me and Daniel from Warriors Anonymous, right? He's a big fan, and I was kind of excited when he came to the club because I was a huge Paul Sironen fan back in the day. He was my favourite player for years because I was a Tigers fan back before the Warriors were a thing. But I just kind of feel that he's a good player. He's versatile, but he's not amazing at any one position, if you know what I mean. So I think it's his versatility, like you said, that gets him into the bench every week. He's a grinder. He doesn't do a huge amount wrong. Like he had a bit of a mare at dummy half there in Auckland in that wind as well. But he's an interesting one for me. He's a little bit underwhelming as well. Like, I feel like when you've got a guy like Jazz and Walker, Ali, when they come on, that Curran, when he's off the bench, you can feel that they impact the momentum of the game in some way.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like he comes on and plugs a hole. And, again, this is just personal instinct and things you see as a fan, and I'm by no means an expert. And I know that having that versatility makes up for a lot. It stops you always having to carry 2 hookers or so forth. But the whispers I heard from one of the Dragons content creators that he's off there. The rumour at the Dragons is that Sironen's coming there next season. So that's interesting timing.
Yeah.
To hear that the day that Harris Tavita gets brought back to the club, which we'll talk about in a moment. So look, I gave him a 7, and I don't dislike the guy, but I just kind of feel like that's a position we need that energy coming on in the game, and I don't really feel like he's a high impact, high energy player. He's just a bit part player. So if he does go, I hope he goes and has a great time over there and does well, but I don't think we'll miss him hugely.
Nah, I don't think so.
I feel like that's been a bit negative for over.
Yeah,
I love him more than they're playing so well, but
you're a good guy, mate. You're a good guy.
It's a spot that I'm trying to be this balanced and positive person this year when it comes to the Warriors. Dylan Walker, bro. There we go. Let's talk about something.
Yep, I've said Dylan was the buy of the season. I still stand by that. We saw his immediate impact with him and Jazz, but in essence, him as well. Very much important in that middle role. I think we all kind of see it. It's very clear. I think that's the one thing I've enjoyed about Webby's plan and system is that for even the casual fan, you can see how the system's supposed to work. I felt in years past I've struggled to understand what the coach is trying to achieve at the Warriors. And so, it's been nice to know, Dylan comes on at 20 minutes and this is why, because he does this and this. And I think that's where I've seen him in that middle role just been really versatile. We saw it again. We were refreshed to see it again against when you put AFB through and against the Bulldogs. So, and then the move to the 5'8" position. I think a lot of us saw why. Previous to that was Volkman, right? And then we saw probably why Volkman wasn't in there for defensive things. And so he was really a defensive stop. I think Webby was trying to sacrifice his position in the middle just for something defensive, and he got it, but then it came to bite us a little bit in those last 3 games. Right. But I think at the same time he's done a really good job there. I thought one of the games against the Cowboys he just shut down Nanai completely. He just said, "No, you're not getting through today," and that was part of why we won that game against the Cowboys. And I've given him an 8.5. I'm tempted to give him a 9 because I think overall he's been really good. I haven't seen any, like, he's only done the elbow in the Storm game that I thought was marginal. I don't know why he got the bin for that, really. And then he hasn't had massive errors. He hasn't been a big-time error type guy. He's been a cool, calm head. He's been a captain even. I think Webby has him up there in the captaincy, like the ranks of terms of senior players. Right. So, yeah, I'll stick with 8.5. I think he's been solid, yeah. But probably a little bit of drop-off in the 5/8 role where we weren't getting anything offensively.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm quite similar. Like, I gave him an 8 purely based on probably that 5/8 time.
Yeah.
His impact that he was having before that was just, it was outstanding. And I didn't see a lot of him, like, in his Manly days. I remember little bits of him popping up there. That day he got cracked. But who did he antagonise and end up cracking him and putting that big lump on his eye there? So I knew he was a bit of a, antagonising a grub. And then, like, you see, here's another one who gave away a lot of penalties. But in his last year or so, he started to develop really well in that 14 role.
Yeah.
So when he came here, I couldn't imagine anything other than that he would play people talking they'd have him in the centres or 5/8 or whatever. But I think he's a perfect fit at 14. We sort of showed that he was a good stopgap. He played really well in that first game at 5/8, but I think the opposition who came after that read him and exploited him a little bit. And I think we just really struggled for creativity there. But interestingly, when he plays in the middle, he's very creative, right? So I agree he'd be close to the buy of the season for me. You hear the reasons why he came. He's a Māori boy. He grew up in Australia without much contact with his whānau and didn't really know his roots, so he decided he didn't want his kids to have that same sort of upbringing and wanted to bring them back here and find his own roots. So I felt like he genuinely came for the right reasons, which is always been one of our complaints is we get these people hangers on at the end of their career looking for the big paycheck and they come here and do bugger all. Guys have come from the Storm, right? And you expect massive things and they do shit all and then go back like Pene, right? He did nothing while he's here. Now he's actually contributing there. But I think Walker, my only concern was his age. How many good years has he got left in? Will the errors and head explosions come with him? And they didn't. He's playing with an energy that matches Jazz. Before he got this toe injury this week, he's been pretty much injury free. So, if I judged him without the second couple of games at 5/8, I would have given him a 9.5, but I just dropped it down from there. And again, that wasn't his fault. So, his leadership and his energy around the club will be really infectious. So, a big buy for me. Next up, we have his partner in crime there, Jazz, who's only played 6 games this season with his various injuries. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
But, only 6 games. At the moment, they're estimating, I think it's another 3 weeks, did they say? Another three rounds, after the next bye. Him and Tamari Martin coming back.
I think that's good too. I think that's good timing for when... It's kind of if you think of it just quickly off topic, but we're not actually a 30-man squad really in terms of depth. We're kind of like a 20 to 23-man squad. So we kind of actually we're kind of running low on troops and we actually need guys like Jazz to come back at those times fresh. So you're thinking, if Tamaiti and that can come back then, that'll be awesome. And then if Metcalf comes back next week, then we've got another fresh body. And so we're kind of lucking ourselves into these... Because I don't think we have a full 30-man deep. We're actually probably 21, 23. So it's actually fortunate that these guys, we've been surviving without them, but we want big impact when they come back. But overall, man, I've given Jazz 8.5. I think he's been awesome. He stepped up when he's been doing the prop role. He did the lock role, and he's been doing some of the games. I think the Sharks game or whatever. He just stood up for me like something where he kept digging in, and it looked like he was down and he was getting punished, by the Sharks who were kind of targeting him in defence because he's a little bit smaller, but he just kept coming back and coming back. He never quit. I love that about him. And his game is pretty clean these days, like very clean. That he's taken that out of his game, and so when you add that to Walker, and like you said, if Walker's playing clean and without that type of energy, positive energy, and Jazz is with that positive energy. So when those two come on, they're just giving no errors or limited errors, good meters, good attacking threat, great defensive, strength. You love it. So I've given him 8.5, and it's just been sad we've missed him, But if he's coming back at that time, I'm looking forward to a big push right till the end of the season. I think he'll be a big part of our team still,
Yeah, I mean, if he played 11 games the way he played 6, he would have been a 9.5 for me. I mean, just looking here, he's only 1.78 metre tall, 98 kgs, and he just plays so far beyond that. Even last year, again, he was one of those guys that just tried his ass out the whole way through COVID. He's always, I call him the ultimate warrior, right? Like he's a one club man so far. You can just see every game. You can never accuse him of not putting in 100% effort, and I can't accuse anyone in the Warriors roster of that this year. But there were times over the past couple of years where their players, they just didn't feel like their heart was in it. And he was always someone. Every game he's out there, he plays with a level of passion you don't see. And like you say, he's managed to kind of harness that, but control the just going over that limit and giving away the penalties or getting binned. Or I don't think he's been binned this year, or I don't know, and he definitely hasn't been suspended.
No.
So I think he's found that perfect balance, and that 1-2 punch with him and Walker when they were both there playing fresh, I think they brought some of the biggest impact of any forwards in the NRL off the bench. So I just can't wait for him to get back, and I feel really sorry for him because he's struggled with these injuries over the past year, like these big long-term ones that he's gone all the way through rehab, like over the off-season where his shoulder comes back, then he has to do his ankle, and then he has to do his foot. I think it was the third one. So it shows the resilience of a man to stay positive and keep coming back. Yeah. So my favourite Warrior, and I'm giving him an 8.5, but I could have given him a 9.5 if he'd played a bit more.
Yep.
So the last one who's actually played for us this year is Domitric Sifakula. He's only played the 2 games. But what have you made of him from that and what you've seen from him in the SG Ball? Not SG Ball, the Cup.
Domitric is a guy I'm high on. I haven't seen, again, I've been pretty poor with watching Cup, but when I've just watched the guys come through and I've heard talk about them, when I saw Domitric play the Panthers game, he just had a few touches there that I just thought, wow, there's something here. You can just see how a guy runs sometimes and how he goes into contact and what he can do, and you can see there's something there. He put on that offload for CNK. It was just too strong. It's like a bowling ball. He's throwing it down the lane there, and it bounced off his shoulder. But it was just a sign to me that, hey, this guy's got a bit of an offload game. He's not afraid to to put on a pass when it's there. He'll learn over time. You got to be a bit softer there, or hold the ball even. But he's got something in his future that I'm looking forward to seeing, and it's good that he's been named in the squad this week. It'll be a good opportunity to see some more of him. I just want to see more volume from him. Right. And then you can kind of rate and see where he fits in for next year. Because if you're thinking, squad for next year, where does he is he in the starting 17 next year? That would be a big question. But I just think he needs more games.
Yeah.
I've given him a 7 though, because it's just limited time. He got that bin that was unwarranted. We've seen worse since that. But I loved his energy when he came off the field. He had this look on his face like, I want to get these guys back when I get back on the field. I love guys like that. We need guys with a bit of mongrel, man. Like, nah, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to give it back to you when I get my chance. And I think that's what we just want to see him get another chance. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's only 19, so
shucks, man.
I think it's good. Like you see Katoa when he was brought in, like he just got overplayed again because of the whole COVID thing. And I think that kind of burnt him out a little bit there for a while, because they always say that it takes a lot out of you in your first couple of seasons to get your body used to it. And so easing him in and out like this, and I mentioned in I think it was the first episode here when we were talking about takes on Webby, that after the Tigers game, no one was talking about Sifakula. We were all talking about Zaya Mau and I think it was Ken Laban at the time. I'm trying to remember. It was a couple of those guys that sort of on the fringe that I was going, man, they're awesome. And then when Webby was mentioned, then he sort of said, oh yeah, they've got a lot to work on. But he singled out Sifakula and said that guy played well. So you could see that he was seeing something different. And he seems like a very shy and sort of humble guy. I don't know if you saw when they gave him the jersey well,
Yeah,
the
that was
debut
beautiful.
announcement, right? He was just like so stink, and he struggled to kind of talk. So he's probably still young and finding his voice. I think we've got a group of those very kind of humble, shy kind of Polynesian boys in our club. You've got sometimes they just and they're just like they're absolutely scary. You're just waiting for them to almost smash you in half. They've got that killer instinct, whereas our guys seem like they're a little bit, I don't know, shy to use their size and physique. Almost, like I mentioned about Adam Pompey and stuff, and Kossi. Like I just wish they'd be a little bit more aggressive, and we've seen that Kossi started to. And I felt like he was a little bit, trying to think of a word, not tame, but just could have gone a little bit harder. And I think that the way he came in at Clear, he gave me that little bit of hope. Oh yeah, he's got that fire in him when he's got the confidence to use it. And I think he's a guy who'll continue to express himself more when he gets more time and feels like he's meant to be there. Whereas at the moment he's probably a little bit humble. So I'm excited to see how he goes. And I trust Webby's eye and what he's trying to do. So I expect we'll see a lot more of him. But I think it's a good way to kind of get him coming in, go back to Cup where he does shine. Like I've only seen a couple of their games and one or two highlights, but when I watched the second Bulldogs game that he played in, he was definitely a bigger presence on the field than when he played in the first time against them, back in round 4, I think it was. So he's growing and excited, and I'd give him a 7. So just to quickly touch on, at the moment we've got within the 30-man squad, we've got Luke Metcalf here, who we've seen come back to Cup, and he's making his debut for the club this weekend. We've got Falingi Kepu, who's out for the season. Then we've also got on the development, we've got Jacob Laban, Ali Leotau and Zion Mayu. Maybe just a quick take on some of those guys. Luke Metcalf.
Yeah, Luke. Look, man, we're gonna find out pretty much against the Broncos. I feel how it all looks with SJ. It's really not even about Luke. Oh, it is a little bit about Luke himself, but it's really how he looks with SJ. I think we can honestly say that maybe Volkman's looked out of place with SJ. Walker hasn't got the natural game to play along with SJ. Tamai's looked good in patches. There's some times where it hasn't looked good. We want to see a combination here with SJ that if it sparks, like it's a SJ and Maloney type vibe, 2011, then we feel we might be onto something really big here. I think we maybe need to tame that expectation a little bit. This is something that will take time to develop, but you just want to see him, get some touches, go at the line. You want to see him even just putting his outsides on or even kicks. I just want to see his package, not the whole package. We're not going to see that all, but just want to see how he fits in with SJ. A lot of these guys haven't been able to overcall SJ. I think SJ has a dominant voice and role. I wonder if Metcalf comes in and actually says, "Hey, give me that ball. I want the 5th tackle here," and he calls for it and he takes on the line because he's got that ability. We've seen it. It's just we're seeing how it balances out. Yeah.
Yeah, and he feels like a 6 to me. I mean, like in my mind, you've got your 7 like SJ is the controlling player and does the majority of it, and you have your 6 who's more kind of got that freedom to run around and just go nuts every now and then. Kind of similar to what you see at Souths, right? I'd love to see him sort of play in a similar role as Cody Walker.
Yes.
It's Cody Walker. Is it Cody Walker?
Cody Walker. Yeah.
Questioning myself here, but yeah. Who he does a bit of kicking, but he's just like that guy who roves around and he just sort of flicks the switch and he gets really creative. So I think that's what we need, and to me feels like he's more of a natural 6. So whereas Volkman is clearly to me a natural 7, where he is that guy who runs the team and the other guys run off him. Tamati Martin, I feel like he's a solid player at 6, but he just doesn't have that just pull something out of his ass kind of X factor, which I think Metcalf brings. So I think that creates space and opportunity for SJ. So I'm excited, really excited to see how he goes. But just hopefully his leg stays right, eh?
Yeah.
I won't touch too much on it, but I just thought it was interesting. I've never seen the Kepu brothers play, but I thought it was really interesting. They ended up letting one guy go, and then promoted to the Palingi to the 30-man squad, and then he unfortunately did his ankle doing the wrestling. But yeah, have you ever seen him play at all?
No, I can't give you anything, man. I haven't seen anything from these guys. Yeah.
Mate, he seems like he's got a very well-balanced physique that he could play prop 13 or even on an edge. So I'm curious to see how he drops out. But have you seen a few of his stats or something?
No, I haven't. What have you got? What have you got
his
on
metrics or something?
I just thought of size-wise, he's big. He's massive.
Me and him.
Yeah, it's just size-wise, he looks like a massive unit.
I'm going to get this name right one there. Lea Tohu.
Lea Tohu.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of X factor and a lot of his uncle in him. So I'm really excited to see him get a shot at some point. Probably, maybe next season. But the one I've seen the most out of him is Zion Mayo.
Okay, yeah. What's Zion like?
He's a machine.
Wow.
I think he's probably got a few defensive reads, but he is that absolute grumpy-ass, angry, super fast, hard-running, everything we want from Bunty with the ball in hand. He's made tackle breaks and run 75 metres before someone's caught him. He's got that kind of wheels. So I've got a huge amount of hope for him. I think, again, it's probably his defensive side of things that maybe he doesn't have the work of like what they need at NRL level there, or maybe he's missing a couple. But as far as potential goes, he's actually named kind of in the reserves this week. How old is he? It doesn't even have his age in there. But yeah, massive boy. Very excited to see him get a run at some point. That if he could fix the gaps, I think he's got a big future ahead of him.
Is he back rower, is he?
So, no, he's a prop.
He's a prop, okay.
He's a prop.
They haven't got his metrics here.
Yeah, they've got him listed as a second row, but he's been playing prop and cup there. But you can just look in his eyes if you've got that photo in front of
if you look at his eyes, he's going to destroy you, bro. Looks like a bully, man. He
just plays with it. I'm trying to think of the last prop we had who played with his kind of aggression, right? If you're going back to the kind of wiki days, I think even, because we've had a lot of hard-working props, but not a lot of props that you just think, shit, I don't want to play him.
Yeah.
And I feel like this boy, once he fills out a bit more, man, he kind of reminds me, without the silly things that he does, is Pangai Jr. He runs like him. And he's got that look in his eye like him where he switches on. It's like, man, that if they can allow you to punch in the game. Yeah.
No, we can deal with
so
someone
he's probably the one I've been most excited about watching the Cup guys coming through this year. But I like the way they're sort of easing them in. So that takes us through all of the player ratings, man. If I was to summarize it from myself, I think if we could somehow time this, that we get all of our guys to choose from, and they're relatively fresh after a couple of these buys. We haven't seen our top team play yet, and I'm still not sure what that would be, particularly with the centres and the forward and the bench. But I think if we can get back to Jazz, Dylan Walker, and Curran and Ali on the bench, man, that's a very, very high impact bench with those really solid boys starting. Man, I feel like looking at it now, I think we need 32 points, I reckon, to make the 8. And we're on 14. So we only have to win half of our games to get there, which kind of makes me think, there's a very good chance if we get on a bit of a run over the next couple of weeks that we make top 6. I don't want to get too excited and say 4, but I feel like if we have our top team on the field come those finals, I think we can push any team on the day, particularly if we have our right halves and spine combination, right? I think we would struggle against anyone like Penrith or the Souths if we didn't have our creative players out there, but if we did and we had that bench... Ooh.
Yeah, look, our for and against is really good too. We've only leagued 210 points. What's that over 11 games? What's that? Maybe less than 20 points per. Less
Yeah,
than
I think
18?
we averaged 22 or something, isn't it?
That's
18,
pretty good,
22,
man.
yeah.
That's really good.
We haven't
like.
had. I think we've only had 2 scores above 24 against us. We had the one against the Knights, which was like 34, but I think every other team's had 40 put on them this season.
Yes, I've seen that. Yep.
So I think from that aspect, we're one of the most consistent.
Look at Penrith, bro, 125 against. These guys are just insane.
Yeah, their for and against is crazy, right? And they started slow, but I think they're going to be really tough to beat this year, to be honest. I think you'll find the Broncos will probably peter out again.
I think so.
Souths I expected to kind of go on with this, but last week, bro, what happened? East, God knows what they're doing. Them and the Cowboys are so up and down. Well, the Cowboys are just down. So there's a lot of teams that you wouldn't want to play in the grand final, but whether they can put that run together to actually get all the way through to the final, it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Canberra ends up doing it, to be honest, like getting through to the final against the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at the teams in the top 8, I'm only afraid of the Panthers. The Sharks, we know we can beat them. If we have our best team. The Rabbitohs are a team that I would be worried about. Broncos, I feel like exactly like you, they're on the dip. Storm, we know we can kind of sit with them, even the Dolphins as well, and the Raiders. That's the current top 8. They won't be like that at the end, but I'm thinking like, man, we can fit in, we can mix it with all these teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of them, this guy, I think will be a lot tougher than people think, is playing the Dolphins, even though we're playing at home. They've got a really good, solid team.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah. So, again, I even think we can beat Penrith. We proved that the other day without our creative players there that they struggled to score against our defensive system because, obviously, Webby knows them better than most. If we had our full team against them, and we're looking at a lot of the top teams in the top 8 have got their top players in there at the moment. Their injuries are kind of more in their fringe players, right? Very few of those teams have lost their key spine players and the like. So you look at the likes of maybe the Bulldogs have lost a similar number of players to us, and they're way down there. They said they're only 4 points behind. So I think it's about staying healthy, right? The last thing I just wanted to touch on before we wrap this up is Chanel Harris-Tavita signing coming a little bit out of the blue yesterday. Yeah, but I heard Cameron, man, I'm terrible with names on here at the moment, George on SEN the other day talking about how he had played golf with Chanel. Yep. And I'm like, it just gave me that little hint. Why would he do that? Him being the CEO, talking about how he's in a really good space. So it was kind of interesting. It was within a week that he actually came out. So what's your take on that? Where do you see him fitting in?
Well, I read the articles and I listened to Webby today, and I read the article. There's an article about Chanel about how he was in Samoa watching the boys or something on the TV, and he just got they're wanting to come back and play with the team, and I think he spoke to his agent and they figured it out. It kind of comes really weirdly at the moment. I don't mind that he's seen that the club's coming around and he wants to join. That's great. That's what we want. We want that even from Australian players. I think he's been one of our better players in the tenure that he's had, even through COVID. It was a tough time, and he's kind of stood out in a good way. I think people have been questioning whether he's a half. And it seems like, well, we've got too many halves anyway. Why is he coming back? And I was a bit surprised that Webby supported that. He said he's a genuine half today. And I was like, I was thinking of more of the hooker interchange kind of the Sironen type. But Webby sees him as a pure half. So I'm questioning what's happening behind the scenes that maybe we don't know. I hope there isn't anything. That was my only concern.
But who knows? Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything literally like when it came out, I had a 12-hour day yesterday, which I very rarely do a big day, and that kind of got off, and there's like all these tweets about him, like shit, and I couldn't really, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it. That's interesting that he's been signed as a genuine half, and with SJ, I feel like he's he knows what he's planning to do, and the club will know, and the
I
club
think he
will
does
have
know what
told
he's
him
gonna
what they're
do.
planning to do. So there's nothing like, oh, we're going to try and push him out or anything like that. If I look at Chanel, you could always see the potential, but I always felt like he was. You look at guys like Cooper Cronk. He was nothing until he's kind of like 26, 27. And it was the last 5 years of his career that he really, his craft, percolated into the outstanding player he was. And I always had that feeling that he's very calm. He's never like overwhelmed. And I felt like, he's probably one of those guys that will let go. He'll go to another club, and then when he hits about, 3 or 4 more years of full-time playing, he'll just like end up being, oh my God, like Jerome Hughes kind of guy. But I kind of felt like he was never kind of reaching his potential with us until the last couple of games that he played last season.
Yes.
And he played with a bit of freedom once he'd made that announcement. It's like, shit, bro, why did you decide to go now? You're finally starting to do it. So right now, would you put him in or Volkman? You'd go for him because he's 50 games NRL experience.
Yeah.
Very strong on defense. He's got a great kick on him. He's got that creativity, but doesn't overplay his hand. Personally, I'd like to see him developed as Walker's next 14 kind of guy, maybe.
Yes, that's what I was thinking
too. He hits hard enough to play in the middle. I've always thought he'd make a great centre because of his defensive reads and the strength of his defence out on those edges, that I don't think the transition from 5/8 to centre is huge. If you go from, say, another position to the centres, you're having to make a lot of completely different reads, but I feel like the 5/8 is similar. So I've always thought maybe it'd be an interesting centre there, but I'm surprised to hear that.
I'll give you something too.
Feel? Because
I'll give you something right now. I've just kind of looked at the depth chart of what these guys can do. So you got CHT, Tamaide, Volkman, and Metcalf, and then now what can these guys do? CHT, I've got him as hooker cover, 5/8. I've got him even at fullback at a whim. I've got TMM at 5/8, and I've got him as fullback because we saw what he did with the Broncos. Admirable, good fullback. Volkman, all I know he can do is, half. He's a halfback. Metcalf probably could play fullback and wing outside of in the halves, right? I'm not saying that you should get rid of Volkman. I don't think that's the case, but CHT does give you versatility. We've talked, I think, versatility, and that's another thing we'd be said, and I agree with the sentiments. You need a 30-man squad. You need, and if guys can sacrifice, and compete, then that signing of CHT takes you into a potentially top 4, top 6. Once you add in all the injuries and HIAs that will happen next year, adding someone like him is huge. But it's whether you can keep the Volkmans and the Tamaides around, and but you just see there CHT gives you more versatility. But that doesn't always mean you want versatility. You might want Volkman because he's a specialist, but I think that's the only kind of reason why we might have got him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like patience is going to be really key for and guys we know nothing about yet. When we get Harold Backs and you've got the 5 teams, there's going to be a lot of guys that want to be in first grade now, and they're just not going to get there. And I just, over the years we've seen too many guys have been impatient and just started to break through, like Tui Lola here, Mason Lino, those kind of guys that had they been patient, they probably would have ended up getting game time here. The other thing I think we need to be careful of is if you look, I can't remember the exact number, but it was 40, some stupid number of combinations we'd had in the halves for the 3 years during COVID, and going back to the Kearney thing, we just kept rotating these half combinations, right? So they never formed. We never gave them the patience to form those combinations, and I think Nikorima, and then it was with Sean, and then Sean's injured, so we've got they just kept constantly swapping them, and I just felt like he's right about 50 games now, and I felt like he had definitely taken that step up. in those last couple of games. So it was a shame, but I'm glad he did it because, I've been in situations where I don't want to be there anymore. And you've got to step away sometimes to find out what you really, really want. And I love that his first instinct was to come back here. He could have gone anywhere. But, I believe they'll have a plan, but I just think the key is patience.
I think he's like a Phoenix Crossland type. If you look at Phoenix Crossland, I was thinking of who's a player that's comparable to him. I think of him as in the Phoenix Crossland role, where Phoenix Crossland was the hooker cover for Trindle. And then when Trindle got the ACL, he went straight into hooker. And then when they had an injury at 5'8", he then went to 5'8". And then now he's back at hooker.
Smashed us.
Yeah.
He played there that day. They put 35. I was absolutely impressed with him, bro. It was so good.
And you got to counter in that there's going to be injuries next year. Like Chanel's going to be involved in some of these games. There's no doubt about it. But at the moment, I view him as that kind of Phoenix Crossland. He's not the starting 5'8". He's not the starting hooker. Right. He comes off the bench, and if then you get an injury, then you're happy you've got him. Oh man, that's great because he's better than Sironen. He's better than Sironen. We know that for a fact.
Oh wait.
So I think if we saw Curran in the 5'8" and the 17, we'd be like, oh man, we're losing this one today. But if you got CHT there, okay, we've got a chance here,
Yeah, and I feel like Volkman is a really exciting 7. I think the key question mark around him is maybe size. Is he able to transfer? I mean, you look at Cody Nikorima, so it's something. If he was, 10 kgs heavier in SJ size, he would probably be, a completely different player because
I agree with that.
There are very few players like Isaac Luke, who he was a small guy, but he just played at a guy, like a guy twice his size. So whether he can make that physical transition, but I feel like from skill capability, he is our future 7. And I see Metcalf as a genuine, like he's more of that, given the freedom to run kind of guy, and he can play fullback as well. And Chanel's like a bit player. And I just don't know how Tamati Martin fits in long term. I think he complements SJ well, but, he's a really strong and solid player. But is he taking you to the grand final? Good. I don't know. Stay tuned on that, I reckon. All right, man. Really interesting chat again. We managed to drag it out quite well. We'll see how we go. Might have to break this into a couple. But any final last statement of wisdom you'd like to share with the Warriors world out there before we finish up?
No, I think I've probably said too much. Maybe one thing is like, this is another window. I actually think that the first half of the season is done. I think it actually goes back to square one here. It's kind of a reboot, a reset. So we actually need to kind of rejuvenate. The team needs to rejuvenate and kind of come out strong. Like I kind of don't want to see anyone tired, and because we saw that in those last 4 games. I just want to see a really rejuvenated effort. Not saying we're going to hammer the Broncos, but they are depleted. We should be able to punish them. Especially in the forwards and in those areas. So I want to see us have a dominant run here this next 3-game window. I think that would be really, really good signs of like we're going to go in for a good run here. I think we've talked about it's all 3 winnable games. You just want to see a really good performance, and you don't want to see that there's a tiredness still lingering over the top of the team. We saw that, and we were like, you can see everyone's flat right now, and so that's my only concern. But I think it's like reset. It's like the first part of the season's over. Let's reset and refocus and smash out whatever the number of games we need to try and win, whether it's 7 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I feel like we need to hit the ground running against the Broncos and not have like we've come off the bye and we're a little bit disjointed. We need to come out and sync. I want to see us like absolutely smash them in the last 20 like we were able to with a lot of teams this year up until the last probably not even the last 4 rounds. I'd say it was particularly the last 2 out of that 4-run stretch there. And if we can do that against the Broncos and build that confidence, have a dominant performance against the Dolphins at home there in Mount Smart and really defend our pad there, I think we should be too much for St. George. Then we go reset off that bye, and by then we should pretty much have everyone who's going to be available this year back. So exciting times, Warriors fans. Stay tuned. Man. If you see me up in Napier there, come and wave out. You'll see the the Warriorholic.
Oh, look at that
flag
merch, guys,
flying,
man.
higher.
When's that getting released,
Yeah,
man?
bro. Yeah.
When's the
Bro,
Warriorholic?
why don't you show you the back? I don't know, bro. I'd have to come up with a different logo. I might get trademark issues with this one. But
okay.
no, I just figured like when I head up to games and stuff, that hopefully a few people will recognise me and I can try and have a few interviews or something. But
awesome, man.
yeah, it's a shame you won't be there. But yeah, if you see me at the game, people, come up, give us a yell. I'm always keen to meet with you. Maybe
Awesome.
catch a quick snippet of you after we win the game to put you up on the channel. So big thanks to my man Wise Up here for coming on. It's been awesome rather than talking to myself, having a partner in crime. So we may try and come up with a bit of a regular feature where we get together and bring his in-depth knowledge and my unbridled passion and bias together. So let us know if you've got some ideas of some ways we might be able to collaborate if you like the way we did it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.
See you guys.